The new dragons roar. China's bold stance. China is playing hardball. In the face of mounting international pressure, China is not just holding its ground, but is actively pushing back. The world is watching as the nation flexes its economic muscles, signaling a new era of assertiveness. They're staring down the barrel of a 104% tariff on goods imposed by the U.S. This aggressive move by the United States was intended to bring China to its knees, to force them into submission. But the Chinese government and its people are showing remarkable resilience. This was supposed to be a knockout punch, crippling their economy. Factories were expected to shut down, businesses to falter, and the economic growth to come to a screeching halt. The global community anticipated a significant downturn in China's economic activities. But something's different this time. China isn't backing down. Instead of retreating, they are doubling down on their efforts. The leadership is meeting frequently, strategizing, and coming up with innovative solutions to counteract the tariffs. The business community is more determined than ever to find ways to thrive despite the challenges. They're digging in, ready for a fight to the end. What's changed? The answer lies in their newfound confidence and strategic planning. China has been preparing for this moment, building up its economic defenses and diversifying its trade partnerships. They are not just reacting, they are proactively shaping their economic future. China has a new strategy, and it hinges on a risky bet that the U.S. economy is more vulnerable than it looks. This isn't just bluster. The Chinese leadership has been closely monitoring the economic indicators in the U.S., noting the signs of vulnerability. They believe that the U.S. economy, despite its apparent strength, has underlying weaknesses that can be exploited. China believes the economic winds are shifting. They see opportunities in the changing global economic landscape. Analysts in China are forecasting a shift in economic power, with emerging markets playing a more significant role. This belief is fueling their confidence and determination. They see the U.S. grappling with inflation and a weakening dollar. These economic challenges are not just temporary setbacks, but are seen as signs of deeper issues within the U.S. economy. The Chinese leadership is betting that these problems will persist, giving them an edge in the long-term economic standoff. They see the diminishing returns of super-high tariffs. The initial impact of the tariffs was significant, but over time, their effectiveness has waned. Chinese businesses have adapted, finding new markets and ways to mitigate the impact. The tariffs, once a powerful tool, are losing their bite, and they see a path to victory, not through concessions, but through strategic economic warfare. This is a high-stakes game of economic chess, and China is playing to win. They are leveraging their strengths, exploiting the weaknesses of their opponents, and making calculated moves to secure their position. The world is witnessing a new chapter in global economic relations, one where China is not just a participant but a formidable contender. Betting on the dollar U.S. inflation as China's weapon. China's strategy rests on a simple but potentially devastating premise. U.S. inflation is here to stay, and China is ready to exploit it. Here's the logic. As U.S. prices rise, American consumers feel the pinch. Demand for Chinese goods, even with tariffs, remains strong. This puts pressure on the U.S. to either A, remove tariffs to lower prices for consumers, or B, keep tariffs, fueling inflation and risking economic and political backlash. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, and China's betting that the U.S. will blink first. The tariff tipping point, when more isn't more. Here's something few expected. China believes the U.S. has hit peak tariff. This means that the effectiveness of increasing tariffs has reached its limit. The logic is counterintuitive but compelling. At first glance, it seems like higher tariffs would always mean more pressure on the targeted country. Think of it like this. A 5% tariff? Annoying. It adds a small cost to doing business, but companies can usually absorb it without too much trouble. A 25% tariff? Painful. This level of tariff starts to hurt, making goods significantly more expensive and potentially reducing demand. A 104% tariff? Well, it starts to lose its sting. At such extreme levels, the dynamics change. Why? Because at such extreme levels, businesses adapt. They don't just sit back and take the hit. They find new suppliers, shift production, or absorb the cost. They might even pass some of the cost on to consumers, but they find ways to keep their operations running. The intended impact, crippling Chinese industries, is blunted. Instead of collapsing under the pressure, these industries evolve and adapt to the new economic landscape. This doesn't mean high tariffs are harmless. They still cause disruptions and can lead to higher prices for consumers. But it does suggest they become less effective the higher they climb, a potential miscalculation by the U.S. The strategy of using tariffs as a tool to force economic change may not work as intended when pushed to the extreme. In the end, the global economy is a complex and interconnected system. Simple solutions like increasing tariffs can have unexpected and sometimes counterproductive results. As businesses and countries adapt, the initial shock of high tariffs wears off, and the intended pressure dissipates. This is the paradox of the tariff tipping point. When more isn't more, it reminds us that in the world of economics, strategies must be carefully considered and continuously evaluated. The home front: China's economic arsenal. China isn't just relying on U.S. missteps. They're playing defense too, bolstering their own economy against the tariff storm. China's government has a suite of tools at its disposal. Think stimulus packages, infrastructure spending, and manipulating currency values. These tools aren't perfect, and they come with their own risks. But they give China a degree of control that most countries envy. When tariffs bite, China can cushion the blow, propping up industries and ensuring social stability. It's a reminder that China isn't playing by the same economic rules as everyone else. Section 5. Beyond the trade war: China's untapped leverage. Tariffs are just one weapon in this economic clash. The trade war between the United States and China has been a focal point of global economic discussions for years. While tariffs have been the most visible tool in this ongoing battle, they are far from the only leverage points available. China has other cards to play, and they're starting to hint at them. One word: retaliation. This isn't just about imposing taxes on imported goods. It's about a broader strategy that could impact various sectors and industries. China has carefully avoided escalating the trade war beyond tariffs. They've been strategic, choosing their battles wisely to avoid unnecessary economic fallout. However, the landscape is shifting, and so is China's approach. But that patience might be wearing thin. The prolonged nature of this economic standoff is testing the limits of both nations. As the clock ticks, the pressure mounts and the stakes get higher. They've hinted at striking back, not with more tariffs, but by targeting areas where the U.S. is vulnerable. This could mean leveraging their dominance in critical industries to exert pressure. Think restricting rare earth minerals crucial for U.S. tech companies. These minerals are essential for manufacturing everything from smartphones to electric vehicles. A disruption in this supply chain could have significant repercussions for American technology firms, or slowing down cooperation on issues like climate change or North Korea. International collaboration on these fronts is vital, and any hesitation or withdrawal from China could complicate global efforts. It's a dangerous game, but one China seems increasingly willing to play. The moves are calculated, the risks are high, and the potential outcomes could reshape the global economic landscape. As both nations continue to navigate this complex chessboard, the world watches closely, aware that every move could have far-reaching consequences. Section 6. The fentanyl factor: a dangerous game of chicken. One particularly concerning card in China's hand is fentanyl. This synthetic opioid, largely produced in China, fuels the devastating opioid crisis in the United States. In the past, China has cooperated with the United States to crack down on fentanyl production. But with trade tensions simmering, that cooperation is at risk. China could easily turn a blind eye to fentanyl production or even actively increase it. It would be a devastating blow to the United States, but also a morally reprehensible tactic. Section 7. Soybeans and sanctions: striking at America's heartland. Another target for Chinese retaliation is United States agriculture. Remember the soybean tariffs? They crippled American farmers, forcing many to rely on government bailouts. China could easily reinstate those tariffs or impose new ones on other agricultural products. This would hurt American farmers, a key constituency for the current United States administration. It would also drive up food prices for American consumers, adding fuel to the inflation fire. Section 8. A new playbook: China's evolving trade strategy. China's fight-to-the-end stance marks a significant departure from their previous trade tactics. In the past, they preferred to make concessions, seeking to avoid conflict with the United States. But those days are over. China is now willing to absorb short-term pain for long-term gain. They're playing a longer game, one that relies on strategic patience, economic leverage, and exploiting United States weaknesses. This new assertiveness has taken the United States by surprise, and it's unclear how they will respond. Section 9. Global Tremors, the High Stakes of Economic Warfare. The standoff between the United States and China has implications far beyond their borders. The global economy is watching and holding its breath. A full-blown trade war would be catastrophic, disrupting supply chains, driving up prices, and potentially triggering a global recession. The stakes are incredibly high. Both sides have powerful incentives to find a solution. But both sides also seem locked in a dangerous game of chicken. The world can only hope that cooler heads prevail. Because in this high-stakes game of economic warfare, nobody wins a trade